Have you ever noticed how the things that are supposed to be good for you feel like punishment? You know what I'm talking about. The alarm goes off at 5 a.m. for that workout you promised yourself, and your entire body revolts. You sit down to work on that important project, and suddenly your brain conjures 1,000 other things that desperately need your attention. You try to eat healthy, and it feels like you're depriving yourself of joy. Here's something strange. Discipline shouldn't feel like this. You've watched people who seem to genuinely enjoy their morning routines, who light up when they talk about their habits, who don't white-knuckle their way through healthy choices. They're not superhuman. They're not pretending. Their brains have learned something yours haven't yet. So, here's the question that changes everything. What if discipline isn't about forcing yourself to do things you hate? What if you could actually rewire your brain to crave the very things you're currently avoiding? Here's where we need to talk about what's really happening in your head. Your brain operates on a neurotransmitter called dopamine, and most people misunderstand what it does. Dopamine isn't actually the pleasure chemical, it's the anticipation chemical. It's what fires when you expect a reward. And this is crucial because your brain releases dopamine, not just when you get something good, but when you predict you're about to get something good. Think about scrolling social media. Your brain gets hits of dopamine with each swipe, each notification, each new post. Not because the content is particularly rewarding, but because your brain has learned to anticipate potential rewards. It's running on prediction and possibility. Now, think about discipline. When you consider going to the gym, does your brain light up with anticipation, or does it immediately start calculating the cost, the effort, the discomfort, the time? You see the problem. Your brain has been trained to anticipate rewards from easy, instant gratification. It expects pleasure from the scroll, the snack, the snooze button, but it expects nothing but pain from discipline. And this is where it gets complex, because you can't just think your way out of this. You can't simply decide that from now on, discipline will feel good. Your brain learns through experience, through repeated patterns, through actual outcomes. But the truth is, you can retrain it. You can teach your brain to anticipate the rewards of discipline the same way it currently anticipates the rewards of distraction. You just need to understand how. Here's what's really happening. When someone successfully trains their brain to like discipline, they're creating new neural pathways, new associations, new predictions. Let's break this down. Imagine you're trying to build a morning workout habit. Right now, your brain's prediction model looks something like this: alarm, discomfort, exhaustion, regret about sleep lost. So naturally it resists. But what if you could change that prediction sequence? The people who genuinely enjoy their morning workouts, their brains run a different simulation. They predict alarm, movement, energy, accomplishment, better mood throughout the day. Same alarm, different expectation, different dopamine response. So how do you bridge that gap? This is the part everyone gets wrong. You don't start by forcing yourself through the hardest version of the discipline you are trying to build. You don't wake up one Monday and commit to an hour-long intense workout when you've been sedentary for months. Because when you do that, you're just reinforcing the pain association. Instead, you start so small that your brain barely registers it as discipline at all. Here's the psychology behind this. Your brain needs to experience the reward to start predicting it, but it can't experience the reward if you're so overwhelmed by the difficulty that all you feel is suffering. So, you make it easy, laughably easy, so easy you can't fail. Want to like working out? Start with 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute. Start by putting on your workout clothes. Start with just stepping outside. The goal isn't the workout. The goal is teaching your brain that this action leads to a positive feeling. And here's what's fascinating. Even these tiny actions trigger reward signals. Your brain notices when you keep a promise to yourself. It registers the small surge of accomplishment. It remembers the slight elevation in mood, the subtle sense of agency. These are small dopamine hits, but they're hits nonetheless. Now, let's talk about what happens when you repeat this process. When you consistently show up for these tiny actions, something remarkable begins to occur in your neural circuitry. Your brain starts to update its predictions. At first, the association is weak. Workout clothes, small, good feeling. But as you repeat it day after day, the neural pathway strengthens. And as the pathway strengthens, your brain starts to anticipate the reward even before you experience it. This is when everything changes. This is when you stop needing willpower, Because willpower is what you need when your brain predicts pain and you force yourself to act anyway. But when your brain predicts reward, you don't need force. You feel a pull. Think about your morning coffee. Do you need discipline to drink it? No. Because your brain has learned to anticipate the taste, the warmth, the caffeine boost, the ritual. The prediction of reward is so strong that you're drawn to it automatically. That's what you're building with discipline. Automatic pull toward actions that serve you. But here's the thing. This only works if you protect the association. If you constantly override the small wins by pushing too hard, too fast, you break the pattern. You reintroduce suffering. You teach your brain that this thing you're trying to build will inevitably become painful. So, you have to be patient. You have to resist the urge to do more before you've established the foundation. You have to let the easy version become automatic before you graduate to the harder version. And this is where most people fail. Not because they can't handle the difficulty, but because they can't handle the simplicity. They feel like tiny actions don't count. They think real discipline should be hard. But the truth is, real discipline is built on foundations that are easy enough to become invisible. As your brain begins to anticipate rewards from disciplined actions, something deeper starts to happen. You don't just change your habits, you change how you see yourself. There's research on this from social psychology. Our identities aren't fixed internal essences. They're stories we construct based on the evidence of our actions. Every time you act in a way that aligns with discipline, you collect evidence. And your brain uses that evidence to update the story of who you are. You stop being someone who struggles with discipline. You become someone who shows up, someone who keeps promises to themselves, someone whose brain associates structure with reward rather than restriction. And this identity shift creates a powerful feedback loop. When you see yourself as disciplined, you're more likely to act in disciplined ways. And when you act in disciplined ways, you reinforce that identity. The neural pathways grow stronger. The predictions become more automatic. The pull becomes more natural. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. You're not just training your brain to like specific actions. You're training it to like the feeling of being in alignment with your values. You're teaching it that there's deep satisfaction in becoming who you want to be. This is the reward that ultimately matters most. Not the workout itself, but the evidence it provides that you're reliable. Not the healthy meal, but the proof that you care for yourself. Not the focused work session, but the confirmation that you're capable of directing your own life. Your brain learns to crave this evidence. It learns to anticipate the quiet pride, the self-trust, the sense of integrity that comes from following through. And that's a dopamine source that never runs dry. Now let's address what happens when you inevitably hit resistance. Because you will. There will be days when the pull isn't there. Days when your brain reverts to its old predictions. When discipline feels heavy again. This is normal. This is part of the process. And how you handle these moments determines whether your new neural pathways strengthen or dissolve. Here's what's really happening during resistance. Your brain is testing whether the new pattern is real or temporary. It's comparing the strength of the new pathway against the old one. The old pathway, the one that associates ease with reward and discipline with suffering, has years of reinforcement behind it. It doesn't disappear overnight. So, when resistance shows up, don't interpret it as failure. Interpret it as your brain running an experiment. And your job is to provide consistent data. This doesn't mean forcing yourself through misery. It means returning to the smallest possible version of the action. The version that's easy enough to preserve the positive association. Feeling resistance to your workout? Do 1 minute instead of 30. Feeling resistance to healthy eating? Make one good choice instead of overhauling your entire day. Feeling resistance to focused work? Set a timer for 5 minutes. The goal during resistance isn't to accomplish something impressive. The goal is to maintain the neural pathway, to keep the prediction model alive, to show your brain that this pattern is consistent, reliable, and ultimately rewarding. And here's what's fascinating. Often the resistance dissolves once you start. Because your brain was predicting difficulty, but once you actually engage in the action, especially the easy version, it remembers. Oh, right. This actually feels okay. This actually leads somewhere good. You're not fighting your brain during these moments. You're reminding it of what it already learned, but temporarily forgot. Let's zoom out and look at what you're really building here. Because training your brain to like discipline isn't just about making hard things easier. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with your own potential. Most people spend their lives in a constant negotiation with themselves. Should I or shouldn't I? Will I or won't I? They burn enormous amounts of mental energy just making decisions that disciplined people don't even think about. When your brain learns to anticipate rewards from discipline, the negotiation ends. The decision is already made. The pathway is already established. The prediction is already firing. This is freedom, real freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want in the moment. That's just a reaction. This is the freedom to become who you want to be, the freedom to trust yourself, the freedom to build a life that actually reflects your values instead of just your impulses. And the beautiful thing is, it compounds. The more areas of your life where your brain associates discipline with reward, the more evidence you collect that you're capable of change. The stronger your identity as someone who shows up for themselves becomes. Your brain learns a meta lesson. I can learn to like things that are good for me. I can rewire my own patterns. I'm not stuck with the predictions I currently have. This is when discipline stops being something you do and becomes something you are, not in a rigid, joyless way, but in a way that feels aligned, natural, right. Here's the truth that no one tells you. You're not trying to make discipline feel like entertainment. You're not trying to make it as easy as scrolling or as pleasurable as eating junk food. You're training your brain to recognize and anticipate a different kind of reward, a deeper kind, the reward of self-trust, of alignment, of building something that lasts. These rewards are real. They trigger real dopamine responses. They create real anticipation, but they're subtle, quieter than the immediate hits you get from instant gratification. And in a world that's engineered to hijack your attention with immediate, artificial rewards, you have to tune your brain to recognize the quiet ones. This is what people mean when they say they like discipline. They're not pretending that a 5 a.m. wake-up feels like Christmas morning. They mean their brain has learned to light up with anticipation because it knows what follows. The clear head, the accomplished feeling, the cascade of better decisions that flow from starting the day with intention. They mean they've trained their prediction model to look past the immediate discomfort and anticipate the reward that comes from becoming reliable to themselves. And maybe that's the real transformation. Not that discipline becomes easy, but that your brain learns what's worth the effort. It learns to predict rewards that actually matter. It learns to pull you toward the life you're trying to build instead of the comfort you're trying to maintain. Your brain is capable of this. It's already doing it, just in directions that might not be serving you right now. All you're doing is redirecting the same mechanism, using the same dopamine pathways, teaching the same prediction machine to run different simulations. So, if you're someone who feels like discipline will always be a fight, like you're just built differently from people who seem to enjoy structure and challenge, I want you to know something. You're not broken. Your brain isn't defective. It's just trained on the wrong predictions. And predictions can be retrained. Neural pathways can be rebuilt. The association between discipline and suffering can be replaced with the association between discipline and reward. It won't happen overnight. It won't happen by forcing yourself through brutal routines you hate. It will happen slowly, through repetition of actions so small they barely register as discipline at all. But those small actions will teach your brain something new. They'll show that keeping promises to yourself feels good. That alignment with your values creates satisfaction. That becoming who you want to be is its own reward. And one day, you'll notice something strange. You'll feel pulled toward the things you used to resist. You'll anticipate the rewards before you experience them. You'll have trained your brain to like discipline. Not because discipline itself is inherently pleasurable, but because your brain has learned what it leads to. And that changes everything. If you found this video informative, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.